selections for the interview process will take place early the following week. We're tentatively setting up interviews to be held Thursday, February 11th. So we want to continue to do it as we have in the past as Nick, the representative, and we'll do that. So we're looking at trying to hold that on the 11th. Like to be able to make a recommendation for hire pending a successful completion of the pre-employment screening on our next commission meeting, which would be February 16th. Okay. Our goal is to have the new hire begin on Monday, March the 8th, and then she'll begin the day working with obviously the orientation and then working time sheets and stuff, but we have payroll the following week. So next item up is a proposed paving plan for 2021. I think, Elmer, that's what I had sent to you.
Yes.
That's the thick paper here. Page 1 obviously is my that's my budget column. We put numbers together with estimates on each of these roads to make sure that obviously we've got the funding for that. We're making some assumptions in the MVH and the local road and street based on what we assume we should have. We should know better probably what, Sandy, around February, middle of February or so, or soon. Yeah. So, but we'll address that, you know, as we're more clear with that. The next page.
Is Aspen a new company?
Aspen, it's with Seal Master. It's a fog seal. It's similar to the past QB, but it's not as labor intensive. The next page is basically a District 1 focus, the roads that we're looking at doing as far as the asphalt overlays. Next one down with surface treatments. We're looking at 2 of them there with fog seals, and then there's 5 of them with chip seal overlays. And then as far as any areas that we have to dig or rip up and do a lot of base work, that's in the 3rd one. So that's what we're looking at in District 1. The next page behind that is basically, it's a list of all the roads in District 1 where pavements are at least 10 years old, or PACER ratings are 5 and less, okay? So everything that's bolded is at least a 5 or less. It's a road that obviously we've got an eye on, we're gonna keep a focus on. The ones that are highlighted are the ones that have been selected in this paving scenario for this year. So that's basically that one. That's the front and back. Next page is District 2, the same way. When we look at this, there's one column where it says estimated cost. That's what we're planning on doing out of MVH and local road. The other one is community crossings. Those are the estimates on the projects that we had submitted there. Obviously, the PACER ratings to the next of it, but you can see again too with the surface treatments and seal coats and all of the repairs that need to be done. Also, what we have in here is 720 East, which is the next road that has been approved. It's in that list for chip seal paving. That one's on here. And then there's one little stretch on 175 East we've been getting a lot of complaints on. It's right at the township line. We're gonna, it's a gravel road around a real sharp hill. It gets really washboardy. So we've got an area up there that we've got to rip anyway. So while we're up there, we're just gonna take care of that so we can eliminate that washboard. It's not very long. So, and on District 3, All right, okay, the next page back again is all the roads in District 2 with pavements 10 years old or older, and pavements of 5 or less. Again, the bolded ones are the ones that are in the worst shape. So this kind of gives you a snapshot of what's out there and what we're still focusing on. I think this is really kind of a good way to give us an idea of what's out there. District 3 the same way. Hot mix on the top one, surface treatments in the middle one, and then the rips and dig ups in the bottom. And again, the pages behind that are the roads that are 10 years old or have pages of 5 or less. So what I'd like to do sometime is maybe sit down individually so we can kind of go over each of these. If you have any questions, we can spend more time going through this thing rather than taking up the time now, because it does look like we have a busy agenda. So I'll call each of you and we can set up some time where, I can come see you or you can come to the garage and visit. But that way we can talk about this and get a lot out.
Sounds good to me.
Okay?
Yeah. Commissioner Hudson or anything? No. Commissioner Brown, do you have anything?
I looked through it and it's, I approve of what's there.
Okay. Next item up, we had a request on a road in a subdivision located in St. Anthony. It's Dixie Lane. We accepted it in our inventory and we collected a cash bond for the paving of that road when the time is fit, and obviously it meets all the criteria for paving. So just letting you know now that we're gonna include that with our paving list here for 2021, and we will be cashing that bond and using that for the pavement of that road. So just to let you know that. And Abby Winholt came in this morning. She brought in a petition for the improvement of 650 South in Cass Township and 625 West in Cass Township. She worked with Greg and myself to get the proper signage and everything else put together. So we're going to present these for approval for the commissioners. This here will be on that next list where they will be evaluated. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, look at the very back of your paving sheet too. I think I didn't that. Okay, at the very back, it shows a list of all the roads that are currently approved and in line to be done in order as they were approved. That list is like 6 roads long. And then following it is the one that Lee Bilderback came in with on 850. I knew these two were coming, so I haven't done an evaluation of those yet, but once we get these recorded, there will be 3 roads on that evaluated score, and those will be evaluated once a year to show what order they're in. So that's for y'all information, but I've got 2 of them here to present today with your approval.
And what 2 roads are those?
650 South in Cass Township and 625 West in Cass Township. We need a motion to approve these driveway documents.
I'm sorry, I'm still looking at Dixie Lane.
Okay.
We'll just want to make sure I knew where we were with that.
It's right there by, I think it's Ernie's Welding, just on the west side of town, on 450 south.
Well, we're talking about Dixie Lane, Steve or Brent, are you aware of any pending building projects on that cul-de-sac?
None that I'm aware of right now, no, Elmer.
I know a lot of times if things are going quickly, we wait until most of the building is complete, but things are not going quickly in that area, so.
There are three houses.
So, we
There are
wait.
three houses built. Hey, Elmer, I believe there are three houses built in there already.
Are there really? Okay.
Yeah. I don't see any more going up anytime soon, but
Okay,
Is that up there by AC Motorsports?
Yes.
And can I see the petition that you have there?
Yes.
Please.
So those are both
They
for
can
the
look
same
at it.
people?
Yes.
Okay.
So this Abby's owns property on both of these?
No, but she's the contact person for both.
Okay.
Basically, those roads tie into each other. 625 comes north off of Old Road 64 and then runs into 650 south. And that road goes between Maple Grove Road 585 and State Road 161.
And, you all are happy that this is in order, they've got the right of ways in order, they've got everything that they need, we're in good shape. Commissioner Brown, do you need a chance to look at this?
no, I've talked to the lady and I've talked to Steve about it, and, if all of the paperwork is in place, right of ways and all of that, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't put it on the list.
Okay.
Are the roads that intersect with paved? Are the roads that they each intersect with paved or?
Yes, 650 or 650 south, Maple Grove is paved and then it connects to State Road 161.
Okay.
625, Old Road 64 is paved, but it connects with the 650, which isn't, so.
Okay. So it would create a.
And again, it's on the evaluated list, so if it makes sense, if it doesn't, it'll pan out. So I'll make that motion that we approve the addition of the petition for 650 South in Cass Township and 625 West in Cass Township to be placed on our evaluated score list for future consideration.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Okay, the next plan here is to go ahead and get the evaluation done. I told each of the people who brought in the forms that I would let them know where they stand. We're only gonna do this like once a year. When I have those evaluated scores, I'll also let you know at that time, so you know where they stand as well, so.
But really, at this point, they have a long time. to
There's a
wait.
lot, yeah, there's a long time away, but at least it gives us an idea of how our plan is looking.
all that, so.
I'm not sure if you want this also, Steve, I talked to Brent about it already, about the, citizen that assigned was with Judy Brockright. I didn't know if you wanted to see that too, or you can have it if you want. But I think you and I have already, you've talked to her and it's understood where we're on. Just like you might want to see it. I don't even have.
Okay.
You have anything else?
I don't.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks, Susan.
For Mike, I want to clarify my notes. Is there any action on Dixie Lane or is just you're bringing it to the attention?
Bringing it to the attention that we're gonna include that on our paving list and we will be cashing out that bond. So I think it's like a $9,000 bond or something. Okay. So, thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's done, it's not written on it. Yeah, that's fine.
Motion to approve.
Mine's pretty short and simple here tonight. Courthouse revitalization, Chad and I, we had a meeting on Friday. I know you want to go over that this year. We'll just
Yes,
take
sir.
care of it right here. Did you guys get copied on an email?
I ended up, I printed, copies of the notes that we were sent from the mayor
I said I did the same thing.
and, pardon?
I said I did the same thing.
Okay, so I think Elmer picked up this copy, I just gave Mr. Brown, or Commissioner Hostetter his copy. So
Okay.
this is just some clarification from our last meeting, it talks about, the main part that I'd like to discuss will be the restrooms. And so here's what they're, so I wanted to clarify what their request was from the county. So they want to continue to do promotional events, and festivals, and that's what our traditional, that's what we've done historically, we've approved those. They're discussing doing the downtown showdown one time per month, May through October. That would be a single Wednesday, each month. They also are considering doing some, later business hours for downtown merchants on Wednesday evenings as well. And I believe they said that would be till 7:00. And then we had some discussion on the downtown merchants requesting we stay open from noon till 4 Saturdays and Sundays during the holiday shopping season. So those were the requests that I believe that we had from them at this time. I guess, Brent, did you get a feeling from them of when they would like this to begin? Is this I don't recall asking
The way-
that question.
The way I understood it is after the revitalization would be done. That's when I understood it. Because part of that would be, it would be project, we work in our bathrooms while the courthouse, or while the square revitalization is going on.
Something that Brent did too is he shared why there would be an expense, what asset we would be protecting, of how we would have to, we have some wiring and some fire alarm or fire suppression things that need to be cleaned up before
Yeah.
we probably want to increase any public access.
We have boiler and chiller lines hanging from the ceiling that need to be covered up and protected.
So overall, I guess my feeling when I walked away from it was that these requests weren't, it's not Saturday and Sunday every weekend for the whole year, so I thought that was an improvement. I guess my thought was we could probably meet most of the way with some of these. It would have been my thought. Promotional events, of course, like I said, and then if we just did every Wednesday till 7, that would be 3 extra hours every Wednesday. I don't know if that would be too big of a deal. And then we can consider the weekends, so. If anybody has any questions, I guess we can discuss those. Commissioner Hofstadter?
I don't really, I looked through all this, I don't think the request is too terribly burdensome, other than the estimate on the work to, get us up to that point, $49,000 remodel cost.
Brent, would you say that with some of this work, it probably should be done anyway? You know, just for, I mean, even during Strassenfest, to have it open to the public for 3, you know,
Yeah, we're liable, I mean, there's a lot of things we can grow real quick, even during Strassenfest. I think some of it should be done, I do think so. Yeah, I do think that a ceiling needs to be put in to cover those utilities. Now, I know that the reason they're not is because of ease of maintenance. You know, something breaks, something they can get access to. We cover them up, we gotta have a bunch of holes cut in there, things like that. That's gonna suck, the only way of saying it. So,
you don't think a drop ceiling would work?
no, because then you're not really protecting it. People can go up there, push the ceiling tile, do whatever they want up there. Very easy. It needs to be some kind of drywall ceiling, something that'll hold.
Commissioner Brown?
Yeah, the extra time that is being requested on several of these, and I agree it's not a great number of days, but it is extra time. And if we don't complete all of the renovations that Brent has talked about, does that mean that we would have to have somebody on duty during those times? For example, during the Strassenfest now, I know that Scott is certainly on call. I don't know that he's on duty the entire time, but how would we handle that? Would we just have somebody opening, coming in and closing them and inspecting them, or how does that work?
I think the expense would be somebody coming whenever it locked down. We'd have to have somebody come and look at it to make sure that nobody was, because the doors could lock and somebody could still be sitting inside of the building. So I think that would be something we'd have to consider. I don't think we would have to have somebody patrolling or anything during those extra hours, would be my thought.
Okay,
I think what we do now is it stays open and Scott comes and checks on it periodically, and then someone comes and makes sure at the end of the night that it's closed up properly. For Strassenfest at least.
yeah, and how do we treat Scott on that? Is that comp hours, is that overtime hours? No, it wouldn't be overtime, but.
My memory is that the Strassenfest committee pays him for that. He gets a stipend from the Strassenfest committee. I don't remember what that is, $150 or something, some amount.
Yeah, and if we do that for some of these other dates, we'd have to either enter into an agreement with the city, or we would have to bear that responsibility to compensate him for doing that. And beyond that, we'd have to have a backup, because we couldn't expect one person to always be available for all of these dates.
So I don't know if we have to have anything necessarily done today with it, but we just want to bring it up for discussion.
I know that they're probably wanting an answer whether the restrooms will be open or not, because that would help with their design. Because they have to finalize the design, whether they're gonna put a restroom, the city's gonna have to supply some sort of restroom, or they can nix that and use the courthouse as a restroom. So a decision probably doesn't have to be made today, but I would say in the next meeting or two, we need to have this is what we want to do, this is how we're going to proceed.
Okay, so everyone give it a thought till the next meeting. We can give them some sort of response at the next meeting. Maybe if any of you have concerns, you can talk to Scott between now and then. I may do the same. And come back with some kind of decision. So if you would you mind putting that on the next agenda, please? For 10 minutes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, community crossing applications. So 2 applications were submitted on Monday, 25th. Just now waiting to see how it goes. So an NDOT LPA representative did do me a favor. I submitted them 2 weeks ago. She reviewed them, found a few mistakes that I had, I's dotted, T's crossed type of thing. It really wasn't pretty minor, but they will get me thrown out if I don't have all that stuff done. So then I resubmitted them. Now we should be going over just wait and see again. So nothing there. Then Bridge 143, the south wall is formed up for the last lift of concrete. We're just waiting for weather to correspond and work with us. and then we'll keep going forward. So it is moving forward, even though it's winter, doing good. So that's all I've got. You guys have anything else for me?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Brahmas, you got anything else?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. Okay, let's go through the next items on the list here. Looks like we have a couple members of our Community Corrections Advisory Board, so maybe they're here to discuss did you have comments about the appointment? We have an appointment to be made, or I didn't know if that's why you were both here for you. Okay. So, okay, so it's 8:45, you're early for the Lily Grant. Okay, I thought maybe you were here for that appointment. So, at the last county council meeting, I think the council decided that Alex Hull would be a good representative to be put on the Bush County Community Corrections Advisory Board. They said he was excited to get his hands into it, to figure out, to learn more about it, and I think he has some enthusiasm. I think our board, the commissioners last time, discussed possibly appointing the president of the county council. I think my position is that I would take the recommendation of the county council, that if they think Mr. Hull will be a good fit, and being a new member, he doesn't have a lot on his plate, so I think he would be a good person that could put some time into it.
Yeah, I would agree. I know Alex. I think he would definitely put 100% into it, so he'd be a fine appointment.
Commissioner Brahms?
Yeah, no, I agree. I would certainly go with the council's recommendation.
Okay. That being said, we will, I'll make a motion that we approve Alex Hull as the commissioner appointment to the Community Corrections Advisory Board.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. We have an emergency declaration to consider again.
This has been another continuation at the boards of deans. Governor Holcomb had extended the statewide one through March the 1st. Orange mirrors that.
Mr. Schneider, do you know why we're doing these on a month-to-month basis? It seems like things aren't changing that rapidly. That's just how it is.
That's just the way we're doing it, yes. I know the governor's orders are 30 days. He's got to renew them on a monthly basis. We kind of, sometime around May last year, adopted a similar approach. We can do it more frequently.
I was gonna say, isn't it like 7 days is what you're supposed to, but we've been extending it a month because he's been doing it a month?
Correct.
Does anyone have any comments on extending the local disaster emergency declaration? Hearing
I do
none,
not.
I will, go ahead.
I say I do not. I suspect we'll be back next month to do it again.
I move that we approve the local disaster emergency declaration extension.
I'll second.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Motion carries. At our last meeting, we discussed the DuBois County credit card policy. I believe, have you all seen a copy of that since that time? It says that the commissioners in March of 2012 approved getting a county credit card. It'll be in the possession of the auditor. The auditor will make a log of expenditures made with the card. When they're finished with it, they should return it to the auditor as soon as possible. The card should be used for purchases of $50 and over. So it's a pretty small policy. Doesn't look like it has a whole lot of restrictions or anything on it. Has there been any problem with the credit card policy as it is in the auditor's office?
No?
I think it seems like it's working fine the way it is. Okay. So I know we discussed it at the last meeting. I just want to bring it up again. Do you have any comments on that?
I don't have any.
Commissioner Brahms, do you have any comments?
The only thing that I wondered about was the $50 limit if somebody has to order something from a, let's say Amazon or something like that, that is less than $50, how do they pay for it?
I mean, if we've had to do it, I've accepted it below, but normally I say it has to be $50. I mean, we've really not had.
It's not been,
It's not been an issue,
yeah, it's not really been a problem.
no.
Okay.
I've had
Okay.
people wanting whole hotel rooms that I tell them to do their own and then get a check from us like we discussed last meeting. But other than that.
Okay, sure.
So I think that's what brought this up, to me, somebody wanted to use it for a hotel maybe, and I think so far it's been working fine the way it is, like we talked last time. Brent has put it on his, I think Brent put it on his credit card before, and or you put it on yours, and then we get a check from the county to actually make the payment. For the most part, I think that's working. It's a little clunky and a little inconvenient, but that's one way that we ensure that we're not paying any taxes that we're not supposed to pay. We can get that tax exempt status for the hotel purchases. That's the main thing. So I don't know.
When you hold it on your own personal credit card, you're more likely not to forget to cancel the room if you don't go. I mean, that happens
That's
too.
helpful too, yes. I mean, I think it's a reasonable, thing going forward. I would say the policy should be if a office holder or department head decides they don't want to put it on their personal credit card, I think the county should work with them on that. I don't think we should require it, or I don't know that we could require that somebody use their personal card, but that would be the suggested policy, the suggested way we do it. Okay, that's that. The next item is we have a number of surplus and junk items. Sandy has put together a list for us, and I think that has been emailed to everyone. I've reviewed most of those items in person. The items are some old fax machines, printers, a desktop PC, some cameras. I've looked at the cameras there. They're from the 90s.
Hopefully.
And so let's do these one at a time. I'd say the coroner has the big list of things. So when the new coroner took over, she was handed a bunch of old technology that didn't work, and she's doing a good job of cleaning that out. I'd move that we declare those items surplus or junk to be disposed of.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, next up, the recorder has a search table and a rolling shelf rack. She's here in person, or she's still here. So the search table, I've asked her to keep. It's a nice item, something that could be used in a future building. The rolling shelf rack, can you give us a status update on that? Did you have any new status update?
No.
Okay. So it's a large, did you talk to the museum?
They were interested in the table, but they didn't make it.
So I guess my take on this would be out of the two items that were presented there, we keep the search table and we declare the rolling shelf rack surplus to be disposed of, probably recycled. It's a lot of metal. And she has taken pictures of it, shared with all the other department heads, and we had no takers there. And she's also contacted other counties, and we've had no takers there. So I move that we declare let's just do the rest of these together. The rolling shelf rack from the recorder, a LaserJet printer from the clerk, 2 chairs, junk chairs from the lunchroom, 2 desktop PCs from probation, and 6 obsolete chairs from 911. I move that we declare all of those items surplus or junk to be disposed of.
Second.
Any other discussion?
So the only thing you're excluding is the
Search table. No other discussion, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Motion carries. And so will you reach out to any of these people to tell them, or you're gonna dispose of them yourself?
I have it all in my office.
What about the chairs, I guess those?
Scott's got them.
Okay, and I'll reach out to Gina about the chairs of her department.
I didn't have Julie's chairs on there.
She reached out to me about them, and she showed me photos, and they were.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say that wasn't on my list.
Do you have anything else? We still have a few minutes until our next item to deal with.
So, 2 chairs up, I'll just have to add it to them. You wanted to know, you wanted to work from home policy? No, I don't. That's why I was gonna have that work from home policy, if you want to do that later. Or not work from home, 2 hours. The work hours, the 2 hours less, or 2 days less a week. Every
I
6
think-
weeks or whatever.
Commissioner Brahms, are you, I believe you and the HR director, everything settled with the department that we had the issue on the paid time off, 6-week cycle, all of that, that's all resolved, correct?
Well, it's close if it's not. Nick was going to take care of that. So, as, you know, Nick and Marky, we're gonna work together on that.
Okay, I'll go see Marky after the meeting today.
All right. Well,
Still 2 minutes for you if you'd like to.
yes, please.
I'd sent out, we've discussed this for some time. I think we finally have finalized a legal description for the DuBois County Park. As you know, we needed to do a deed to ourselves, including some preservation language. That's been drafted a number of times. In my last conversation with you, we have gotten a 60-foot exception off the southern line for potential, or at least reserving that for potential use for the county that would not in fact impact the preservation. This is the deed that includes that 60-foot exception. And this is for the benefit of the grant money that is being provided to the County Parks Department for the development of that area.
So we're deeding it to ourselves.
We are.
Got it. Just making sure I understood the language. So does
Hopefully
anybody have
we're
any
good on
questions?
both ends. Hopefully we're willing to give it and receive it.
Yes, I hope so. Do, Commissioner Brown, do you have any questions on this? I see you've already seen it.
No, I don't. I've seen it, yes.
Commissioner Houston, are you still fine with it?
I'm fine with it.
Okay, I move that we approve, signing of the warranty deed to, for us to retain the 60-foot right of way, or the 60 feet of land on the south end of the property.
I'll second.
I'm sorry.
Have a first and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Mr. Schneider, you have one more thing?
I do not.
Okay.
Just one right there.
Yes, sir. Greg, you want the deed back or to go to Sandy?
Sandy needs to sign it first, please. Then I will.
It's 8:45, we're really close to it, so let's, have this girl come on up.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi. Here you go. I have copies of 3 things that are on the budget today, or on the agenda today. The first is Community Corrections Annual Report. State statute requires that we give an annual report to the county executive every year. So that's the first packet that you've got here. I've outlined a lot of the successes, a lot of the areas that we're still working on, areas of opportunity in this annual report. And as not fun as 2020 has been for a lot of people, it has been very fun for success at community corrections in a variety of ways. And that's not to say that we haven't had our challenges, because we definitely have had our fair share of hardships and having to deal with those things as a result of COVID, and how we're managing our congregate living facility, so to speak, in these times. But I'm really proud of our team and the way that we've responded during this time. My word for 2020 was partnership. That was the word that I chose for my year. And I think in this annual report, I used the word partnership a lot of times. It was really cool to see how Community Corrections Partnership developed with a bunch of different entities throughout the county, including the Community Foundation, as they funded a criminal justice system analysis. And I'm noticing now that as this printed kind of weird, so I apologize for that. I'll send you guys the digital copy in addition to this too.
Okay.
But our relationship with the Community Foundation definitely flourished after they funded a criminal justice system analysis, and they provided 5 different areas of opportunity for the justice system as a whole. So the first one was to expand the scope of pretrial services, and we definitely did that as we received a grant in 2020 to add an additional person to that office. And we're able to make sure that all individuals within the justice system who were arrested and booked into the jail are receiving a risk assessment. And that's kind of freed up the pretrial coordinator to further develop policies and procedures for that program as we work towards certification. I wrote in here about one of the recommendations was the Public Defender Council. I know you guys have brought that up multiple times in meetings here. And our pretrial services grant also received some funding, at least in the meantime, to be able to have public defenders present at the initial hearings. Expanding pre-arrest and prosecutorial diversion programs. That's something that, like, Community Corrections has not been extremely involved in, although we have had some conversations recently about how recovery works. Pilot can be used for misdemeanors. Through LifeSpring, they were chosen as a pilot for that kind of recovery works funding to be funneled towards lower level offenders, so to speak. Develop a community-based residential treatment program, and I think this is an area where we're super excited for our partnership, because we've been able to work with different community leaders in bringing a residential treatment program, multiple, to Du Bois County, 3 of which will be operated by LifeSpring, and 1 of which will be operated by Next Steps Recovery. And just working with them and meeting with them has been really, really cool, because what it's going to do for our participants is offer them an opportunity for safe transition after they get out of our program, and the jail as well. And then expanding on community corrections programming, which kind of is going to be a byproduct, hopefully, of the Lilly grant that we received from the Community Foundation. And I'll speak more to that, but it will replace what we lost whenever we lost the TANF funding. Initiate a criminal justice coordinating committee. And I think that's been the most exciting thing for me in 2020, is that the criminal justice stakeholders and a bunch of the community leaders are getting together on a regular basis and talking to each other, and we're not operating in silos. And I think that the partnership that's developed as a result of those meetings has been, it's been really cool to watch, and it's also spurred a lot of action. It hasn't just been like, let's meet and talk about problems. It's been a lot of problem solving and initiating an implementation. I talk a little bit in my annual report about some additional partnerships, which include a partnership with Jasper Engines. It's a pilot program that we worked with them to develop it essentially, for our work release participants, offers them an interview no matter what. And so if they apply and then they put on there that they are in work release, they will offer them an interview no matter what. And then if they did well, then, they'll work on extending an offer. If they didn't do so well, then they'll give us feedback, and that gives us an idea of how we can help them better their interview skills. But then they've also kind of tailored their approach to working with our participants in that they're providing kind of off of their hourly pay, they're kind of a step down scale, and so they can make less per hour, but also have transportation or meal vouchers provided if that's a need that they have. So that's been a really cool partnership, and we're working to develop that further with other employers as well.
How many have taken advantage of that?
Probably about 5 to 6 right now.
And how successful were those employees or for them?
We haven't done we haven't done any sort of analysis on retention. One person that I know does not work there anymore. The other ones, to my knowledge, still do. I also talk about our performance metrics, which when we set these performance metrics, they were set in March of 2020, right before the world shut down. And we really didn't know what to expect and how it would impact our goals. But we had set some goals for training. We've set some goals for case plans and making sure that they're done quickly. We've set some goals to make sure that our participants receive high amounts of dosage. Also that people are receiving an exit assessment and an overall risk reduction rate. And so out of each of those goals, we had said 90% of our full-time staff would receive 40 training hours. That's a lot of training hours. And at the end of the year, 82% of our staff members had met that goal, given, of course, that many of our training opportunities were canceled in 2020. We struggled to meet our case plan goal, that they would be complete within 5 business days, mostly because a lot of our work was moved to virtual during some of this time, and so that impacted the overall goal. And what I want to point out here is that, this was asking that they be completed within 5 business days. That's just something that we had put into place that we wanted them done quickly. Ideally, they would be done within 10 days, but we wanted to operate with a sense of urgency. Because we know that the faster that we can get a case plan done, the faster they can start working on their goals. So that's an area that we know that we need to improve. And after talking with some of the case managers, it was less about the case plans. It was more about the case plans not being entered into the system within 5 days. And yeah, so they were done on paper with our participants and they have them in their file. It's just not in the system, and that's what we're measuring. So we wanted to, for Goal 3, make sure that our participants are receiving an exit assessment, and we want to know what risk factors did we address during their time on supervision. And the only way that we'll know what risk factors we were able to address during their time on supervision is to give them another assessment. And that kind of feeds into goal number 5, which was to reduce risk. We have to have a post-test and a pre-test and a post-test to be able to make sure that we're reducing risk. But goal number 4 was about dosage, making sure that participants received treatment hours. And so, as I mentioned, we kind of changed the way that we track our dosage in March of 2020 as well. So our completed averages are much lower than the ones that are still on our program right now. And of course, many of our in-person classes were canceled for a large portion of the year. But our very last goal was that we would try to achieve a risk reduction rate of 15% in 2020. And so for that goal, our risk reduction rate was 18.57%, which means our average score upon intake was 22.21. And then our average score upon exit was 17.86. And so that was an 18.57% reduction in risk, which is not synonymous with recidivism, but it is a projection, at least, of recidivism reduction. So those are my main updates there from the community corrections side of things. I talked a little bit about securing financial support from the county council, which has been really cool for community corrections to keep building that partnership as well, and working with the county council to invest in our programs, because I know that we will be able to show a return on their investment. And
I did send you a bunch of questions, and you answered them. I think I just haven't had a chance to read them.
yes,
We just did it this weekend, so with that, one more question I don't think I asked you was, if you were to get, say the county council said, we will support you to the tune of an additional $100,000 a year. I think that was the range of on year 5 for those 2 employees, somewhere in that range, is that correct? 120,000?
it was 155.
155, okay.
Ish.
Are those 2 employees, is that the most important 2 things that the council could support to make your department? Is that the best use of the $150,000 in your mind for the next 5 years or the next whatever foreseeable future?
I have thought about that since you asked that question, because it's a lot easier for me to get a grant for a case manager and a treatment program facilitator than it is for me to get a grant for custody staff, like officers.
Yep.
So I know for community corrections, we have 10 work release officers who kind of man the control room. And when you compare that to how many jailers there are, they have about 20 something, a little over 20. So 50% less staffing there. And I think one of the main reasons that number, whenever you are self-sufficient or trying to be self-sufficient, you have to allocate project income where you can. And if you only have enough to fund this many officers, then that's how many officers that you're gonna fund. So, in year 6, I guess, that I've kind of thought about that too. Is it an opportunity for me to try and find other funding for this $155 specific to this case manager and program facilitator, so that I can use this $155,000 for my corrections officers to add more custody staff? I don't know the answer to that. And I know Sandy and I talked about supplanting. You don't want to, have money in place for something and then reallocate so that you're,
Whatever you budgeted for, you want to use it for that purpose and not be, you want everything to be above board. The reason I'm asking the question is I want to support what you're doing. I want to make sure that it's the best for the long term. It is like if I wanted to go to the council to help back up the community corrections on this next 5-year plan, at least, is this the best use of that money for the next 5 years? Is that, I just want to make sure that what we're doing today is going to be the best for the long term for the organization. And if it is, I want to get behind it.
yeah, no, this proposal was built because this is what we need right now. That's not to say that we don't need additional officer staff right now either, because I have been applying for grants for that too. I just haven't gotten them. So yes, we're gonna need this today, tomorrow, and 6 years from now.
Sounds good.
And that he's speaking specifically to the Lilly grant too, which I have given you guys the budget for.
In case you're not aware, what it does is on year one, the grant pays 100% of it, and over the next 4 years after that, the county picks up more of the cost, and the grant pays less until at some point the grant is completely used up.
Right, and then my proposal to the county council whenever we met last week was that then, starting in year 2, the county start providing funding for pieces of each of these parts of the program, utilizing the corrections and rehabilitative tax that has hopefully been earmarked for operations expenses. Until after year 5 and in year 6, when the sustainability plan would be that the DuBois County would use the CNR tax for the duration or until it sunsets, would be my proposal. At that meeting, I know the county council was like able to appropriate for year 1, you know, they can't appropriate for those following years, and we're also in a position where we don't know what's gonna be left over, so. Any other questions on my annual report?
No, no, no.
I don't know if the Lilly grant is next on your agenda or if the coronavirus emergency relief one is, but do you have any
Anywhere you
additional,
like to go with it is
do you
fine.
have additional questions on the Lilly grant since we were talking about it? Ultimately, this grant is a byproduct of the partnership that we've been working to develop with the Community Foundation. It covers essentially what we lost whenever we lost the TANF grant. So we lost a case manager, a treatment program facilitator, and then program supplies for our behavioral services. So those workbooks. And then I have a little bit budgeted in here for training as well, for motivational interview training, and then any additional training for curricula as they become available. And then, of course, the contracted treatment providers who come in after hours or on weekends occasionally to be able to provide programming to our participants outside of what our staff typically does. We're really thankful to be a partner in this project with the Community Foundation. And I think it's a really big thing for the county. It's a huge partnership. If you've heard about the $4.4 million Lilly grant that the Community Foundation received over the course of 5 years to address substance abuse and mental illness.
Can you speak just a little louder? Sometimes Commissioner Brahms can't hear. I'm having a hard time hearing, so I figured he may not be able to hear either.
So the $4.4 million grant that the Community Foundation received to address addiction and mental illness is going to be huge for DuBois County. We're getting a lot of really wonderful things to address substance use and provide resources for those individuals.
I don't have any questions for you.
Okay.
I studied all of it, so
I don't know, since the positions, I guess my main question with that one is, since the positions were already created when we had the TANF grant, do the commissioners need to create the positions again, since we haven't had them filled?
So that was a question that I asked. So these are the two that were eliminated through TANF, so they should still be in existence. I don't think we would need to recreate those positions. I think they exist, they're just unfunded.
Okay.
So if you can get funding for them, I think they still exist.
Okay. Then this last grant is the Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Grant. We worked on this with the criminal justice stakeholders in DuBois County to just help us meet the needs that COVID has created for each of our departments, particularly with working remotely, the additional need to sanitize in our residential facilities. We've budgeted in here, I think the budget is actually on the very last page. We've budgeted in here mileage for the peer recovery specialist because those individuals are not supposed to be meeting in person with our people in Life Springs building. Some laptops, Wi-Fi out at community corrections. We've talked about video court hardware and software, MiFi's data plans, cell phone plans. Those are for people who are working remotely, who maybe don't have internet at their home, or don't want to use their personal cell phones to make calls to our clients. And then the contractual piece would be the installation and licenses. I'm assuming that as we get quotes for each of these things, like we have to have competitive quotes for each of these, and especially for like the Wi-Fi and the video court stuff, we will have to come to present that information to you, assuming they're modifications to they'll be considered modifications to the building and purchase of equipment and those sorts of things.
So is it a requirement of the grant that you have competitive bidding?
Yes.
Because I know with us, with the county, there's different rules for different things, but if it's a requirement,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Yep,
So I just
whatever.
wanted to put that on your radar so that you know it's happening, and we'll be periodically bringing some stuff to your attention.
Do they, do you have an idea when they agree or disagree with giving you the grant?
Well, this was approved already,
Okay,
but we are reimbursed in arrears.
Right.
So, we have to spend the money and then they reimburse us on the back end.
got it. I don't have any other questions for the director, do you?
I don't know either. Thank you.
Commissioner Bromas?
No, just, thank you, Megan, for the report and, for all that you're doing out there, commend you, and also the, foundation for, as you mentioned earlier, bringing the, justice system groups together and, talking to one another. I've been involved in that a little bit, and I think it's a great thing that you're doing, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too. Clark Deeds, Regional Sewer District.
The main thing is copies of the application for the grant to help with, what we already have under contract to help that funding. So this is just the application, like I said, that the small group has met, and informally approved you all for the grant, but we have to send in the formal paperwork for it to start the process. So it's a $30,000 or up to $30,000 grant to go towards the study and the setup of the regional sewer district. It is considered direct pay, so you do have the option of sending once it all is the agreement's locked in, sending them directly our invoices, and they will directly pay us, so that it doesn't have to, it's not paid in arrears, you don't pay up front. It doesn't even necessarily have to go through your all's accounting system. So, basically, this is the next step, is to just get signature on this so we can apply. Obviously, after we go through, get the application in, the legal paperwork and stuff will come out as far as what you're actually agreeing to. This doesn't hold you to anything other than an application. As far as kind of where we are on things, we've had a lot of difficulty getting in touch with Birds Eye and Ireland to get right now we're in the process of laying out all of the district lines. between everybody existing, and if they wanna change theirs, so we can, come
The
up with
existing district, what, I'm sorry?
the existing sewer districts, where their, limits are, and if they wanna expand their limits before we develop your all's limits, and giving everybody the chance to do that. We have met with everybody except for Birdseye and Ireland, as far as developing what each of those, districts want their final limits to be. So we're getting really close to finalizing your limits. And while we're doing that concurrently, we're working on the, background for the topography and all of that of your study. We will submit the actual petition for the regional sewer district, probably, the way things are going right now, probably about April or May. You've gotta have pretty much the majority of the study complete in order to file that petition. So any questions or?
Is there something we need to do to contact those other people to help, or have you been in contact and they're just not responding to you? Or,
I've talked to Nick about it a little bit. I have left several messages with both of those communities, and I'm not getting a whole lot of response.
who's in charge in Ireland? Who have you been calling?
Charles.
Is it Mendel? Charlie Mendel?
I think so. That sounds right. Yes. I've had 3 or 4 different contacts, so I keep kind of getting bounced around a little bit. If you are able to or like to contact with Ireland and kind of push them my direction, let them. I have a feeling they were in on some of our earlier meetings, and I'm a little concerned that they're not responding because they think that we want to take everything, and so they just kind of want to stay out of it now. And we don't want to do that. I mean, that's not the intention. I just need their limits and what they want their limits to be, if that's what they want. So I think that's a little bit of why I'm getting kind of avoided. If y'all would like to contact them and kind of nudge them in the importance of
It might
it.
mean something if you give them a call too.
Yeah.
And tell them that our intention isn't to interfere with what anybody else is doing, because that's right, we're not gonna interfere with what
Yeah.
anybody else is doing. We wanna expand where it's not being served.
Exactly. So, and we want to make sure we get all the stakeholders' input so that we're, doing the best to help them out as well as to help the areas that aren't being served. It really needs to be a partnership and a collaboration. And so that's our goal, is to keep them involved in the communications throughout the whole process so that they know what's going on. So that's where we are on those.
I'll move that we approve signing the application form for the regionalization assistance program to help with the study.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mary, if you would, just shoot me a message after the meeting today with their contacts,
I sure will.
and I'll give
Yeah.
them a call.
Okay, great.
And here's the signed version of that.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much.
And I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to make sure we didn't forget that. If there's more to talk about, we're happy to talk about it.
Nope, that's all I needed for
Do we
today.
need to keep a copy of this on file, like the signed one? Can you
Yes.
get me one?
I can just sign that one, and we'll have one.
I mean, I didn't know if they had to sign stuff or if it was just us.
I think,
'Cause I think it's good for us to have a copy on file.
Yeah,
I'm
as far
good
as the
with
IFA, after they receive this, they'll give us all the legal paperwork that goes with it. At that point, you'll have information and stuff in this first. This is just to let them know we're interested in the application.
Gotcha.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
okay. So what's the situation here? I thought they paid 100%.
Well, when you have additional claims or anything, they don't have any more money, so I take it from account.
They paid 10,000, and if it's
Right,
been more than
it's
that,
15,
then
which our costs are higher,
Right.
and so
That's right.
that's why it's worth it.
the plan is that they are currently paying their own.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, okay, we're gonna take 2 minutes, then we'll get back with,
Ron?
Major.
Yes, good morning.
Okay, they're taking a break. I just want to make sure you were here. They'll be right back.
I'm here.
Did you have a chance to look at those, decorum rules, the 3 different versions?
I read them, you know.
You have a preference?
Well, I mean, Commissioner Brown is, you know, it seems like, I mean, we're just reading it like it originally is, but adding that paragraph. I mean, I'm okay with that. I mean, I want personally, I want the, whoever comes in, when they step up to the podium, that they give their name and address for county president.
Okay.
You know, if we're gonna let the president or whoever the deciding officer assume, decide what he wants to do with it, then we don't know, you know, we can't give it away.
The only thing that I brought up was, who's gonna track it, who's gonna take care of it? Is that the other thing that's going on?
I just thought we wouldn't do that.
Okay.
As a designing officer, we wouldn't make anybody sign unless we've got 20 people that want to speak. So we put a sheet out there, everybody has to sign in.
So it gives us the option if, for example, if we had a big issue where we expected a crowd and we wanted to make it a little more formal,
Right.
then we could say, looks like here Mary Smith from Birdseye wants to speak. Mary, come on up, you have 5 minutes.
That's what I think. I mean, we're not hurting ourselves as long as we got control
So you're not saying we put it out every time,
Right.
we have them fill it out every time, and then we waive it. It's that it never happens unless we
of it.
proactively add it.
Right. I mean, that'd be my opinion.
Because I know we want to make them pretty much match, so I don't want to pass something here that you want to pass on your side.
And I'd like, I mean, I don't know if you want to pass it today. I'd like to have it council read it, I promised them that I would give it a copy of it for their review and see if they have any comments first.
So what we'll do is we will, I'll ask the others to give their opinion on which one they prefer. Well, then you can
And
train.
then they could make them up, and then we could have to email it all to them, ask them to consider
Let's say this is the commissioner's preferred version of it.
That's what I'd like to do.
That'd be fine.
You know, see, because they may come up with a legitimate,
It makes it, that's ridiculous or something, yeah, so. Okay.
because I'd like them to parallel.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Thanks for fixing that forward.
Awesome.
All right, looks like we're prepared here, so we'll move forward with Matrix Telecom agreement. Ron Betts is on the phone, along with Commissioner Ramos. And the current telecom agreement that we have, I think it's called Telecom Care Agreement, expires on March 31st. It covers the phone system, the handsets, or the hand and cords and all of that. And so it's up for renewal. The renewal cost proposed was $13,890. And we had some questions last time, and Mr. Betts from Matrix is on the phone to answer our questions if we have any. So I'll just ask my couple of questions, Ron, and then we can, unless you have a summary or something you wanted to state first.
Well, just in general, the telecom care agreement, it covers the entire county's communications complete. Everything in the courthouse, the annex, the health department, the highway department. It covers parts and labor, 100% for the entire county's communication system. So that's what it includes. Small event changes, any help desk requests, repairs, replacement of anything has to do with the county system is covered, parts and labor in that number. So you're, so we understand exactly what that money is used for, so.
So it's for those items and it's for communications if somebody has questions or just needs some service information, that's included as well.
Anything and everything that has to do with the phone system, to keep it up and running, including software upgrades, is included. What's not included is, if you're gonna add a phone or add a component, that's not covered, but everything, upkeep it, maintain it, 100% parts and labor covered by the agreement, yes.
Okay. So I asked Sandy this last week, and I think she answered my question, but I'll ask you again too. If somebody calls and creates a ticket, for a phone issue, and those tickets are somehow segregated from the other tickets that we would have for, the computer system, is that correct?
100% correct, yes.
So just when somebody calls in and, somebody on your side answers it, they will mark it as a telephone issue or a computer issue or something else, okay? Is that correct?
It's either marked as a telecom care or it's marked as a managed service
Okay.
request. It's one or the other, yes.
Just curiosity, has anybody taken advantage of a cord or handset replacement over the last year?
I haven't studied the entire call that has come in, but I know we had a lot of calls that came in. I'm sure we replaced components on the system, Chad. A lot of it's simple. I moved the changes, a lot of it's help fixing, issues, voicemail, can't transfer calls, those kind of things. I can't speak to how many handsets or cards we replaced, but I know this was done. Yeah, that's the small amount, small thing we get via contract that we've done. But so we've done those. Those are mine. But keep everything maintained, keeping it upgraded, and those kind of things before the bigger costs come in, which are all covered by the agreement, of course. So.
How long does a phone system generally last? Are we looking at a decade, or what's your recommended replacement time frame?
This platform is Mitel's flagship enterprise platform. It should last the county for, as long as we're here. Typically, if you don't look at software upgrades, the systems today, they're gonna run somewhere between 7 to 10 years physically before you may have to upgrade a component hardware-wise and software-wise. As you remember, the county's old system was Mitel. I think you had that system for close to 20 years. And so it should last the county. This is their enterprise platform, Chad. It should last the county decades as long as you keep upgrading the hardware, upgrading the software. It should last the county a long, long time. So.
We have my final question, then I'll hand it over to the others if they have any questions, was, it looks like it's a 40% increase over last year from 9,609 to 13,890. Can you speak to that? I mean, can you speak to that, please?
Certainly. So here's the reasons why you see that delta. One reason is that now, in order to provide software assurance, which is included in the agreement, to get after-hours support from the manufacturer, Mitel, they're charging us a premium amount of money now to give us after-hours support on the system. There was an increase from Mitel to the software assurance that's included as a chunk of that addition. We also are now covering all of the SIP trunking. Last year we moved from PRI to SIP, so now we're covering any and all functions related to SIP, which includes the trunking gateway, the licensing, and the trunking itself to cover SIP. We also added the highway department onto the county system last year, so now we're also covering anything with the highway department. We also misquoted last year's agreement, Chad. The original investment of the county was like $135,000. Typically, I told Sandy this, most of the time, a maintenance contract is about 10% of that cost. Last year, the bid was $9,600 to cover the county, and in reality, it should have been right about $12,000, but it wasn't. So about $2,000 the increase from last year to this year is we're quoting it correctly. Last year, you got a good value, it was only about 7% of the total cost of the investment. It should have been 12, so 2,000 of the increase, Chad, is that we're quoting it correctly this time around. And about a 5% increase would be due to year-over-year increase in cost of the agreement. So if you look at it, it's about $1,900 higher because of software assurance, SIP, the highway department, and a year-over-year increase, and about $2,000 is getting it quoted correctly and to be accurate in how it should have been quoted from the beginning. So about 2,000 of it's corrected quoting, and about 1,900 is all the additions we added from what we had last year. So
All right, thank
the
you.
county got a good value last year. They paid about 7% of the total investment for the maintenance contract, and we just misquoted it. We can't change it now, but we have to make sure we quote it accurately moving forward. The new cost of $13,890 is still only about 10% of the original investment, and we're a year later with all the additions I just mentioned. So it's a good value and it's accurate, and we got the hell of a good deal last year. That's true. So.
Okay, thank you. Sandy, are you aware, do we have funding if we did want to, continue that forward next year, or for this, starting March 31st?
I do have some.
Okay, so funding's available if we decide to move forward. I guess my only other question is, and I don't know if you can answer this, I don't know how this would be answered, but I guess the question we always have whenever you're buying a warranty or you're buying a service, is it cheaper to buy the package or is it cheaper to buy it as it happens? And I guess with our system being really new, I wonder if it's, is this a deal where is it in our best interest to pay as it comes or to pay the package?
Well, it's not just the warranty that you're getting, it's that every time somebody has trouble
Right.
with the phone or every time the setup
Yeah,
change,
yeah.
that's the thing that we do a lot of.
No, it's
Change phone
simpler
numbers,
this way.
change setup. I mean, the health department, we set up 2 or 3 lines just last week. Because they're changing people around or getting new people. I mean, that's the stuff that's ongoing.
Software upgrades, hardware, anything that has to do with that phone system is gonna be covered by the agreement. So we're trying to be proactive, Chad, for the county in this way. And, that's the reason why the agreement came into play, and to draw a line in the sand between what was telecom care, phone system related versus managed services. So it includes everything, parts and labor from the entire county's communications environment.
Didn't really get a full answer there. That would be my question too, is it cheaper to do it per service, or is it cheaper to go ahead and pay the plan? I'm not typically a warranty guy. I pay per service, and I think typically I come out ahead. Now, with this, my understanding of this entire system and all the things that they do is very limited, so I'm kind of on the fence here.
Commissioner Bromas?
I don't think I really have any questions. I think I understand the situation and kind of, talking a little bit about what Nick just said. I agree that personally, you go to the counter and they want to know if you want the warranty on it, that's a no right away, when you buy a piece of hardware. But, in this case here, the service that we get, I guess I'd say the timing of it and the response and the response time and so forth, I think that's part of the contract. And if we had to decide whether or not we're going to call, because of every time we have an issue, that adds a level of, to me anyway, a level of difficulty in managing the system. So just being able to call and say, we've got this issue, what do we do, I think is important.
I think, as you were speaking, I think that's the main thing I get from it, so that I agree with, is we have a lot of departments, we have a lot of employees. If every time there was an issue, they had to call Sandy, or they had to call somebody internally and try to make a determination if who's the right person to fix this, what do we do? It's a time issue too, so we're saving the time of our employees from maintaining their equipment to, it gives people one less thing to worry about to do, to focus on their primary job. That's what I guess I'm looking at. So at this point, I guess I would favor moving forward with the agreement. Any other comments from the other commissioners?
I don't have any.
Okay. Mr. Betts, again, I appreciate your taking the time to talk with us and being a partner with the county on these needs. So thanks again for that.
Thank you for your business. We appreciate the county's business and service and partnership, and we always try to provide the best value we can for what we're delivering. And I think this is definitely a good value, overall for the county to continue, the agreement.
I'll move that we approve, entering into the telecom care agreement pending attorney review.
It's already reviewed.
I reviewed it.
Okay, then I move that we approve, entering the agreement.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, appreciate it.
Corey Bettag, Bush Catter Acres. Sorry you had to wait so long.
Oh, it's fine. We've been trying to attend more meetings the way it is. Morning, Corey Bettag, Cash Wagner Associates, representing Adam Bushketter. He is subdividing some ground. It's partially within the 2 mile city's jurisdiction, so we are still dedicating the right of way to Du Bois County. It's out on Kellerville Road. I don't know, have you guys had a chance to review the electronic ones? Would you like to see a copy of paper ones?
Yeah, I saw it.
I have a conflict of interest with this property, so I will recuse myself and abstain from voting on the issue, but I am familiar with it. Let's leave it at that, I guess. So, Mr. Schneider, if the other board members approve this, there's probably a signature line. Do I just not sign?
Either not sign or you can write abstain.
Okay.
It has been approved through the City of Jasper Plan Commission already, and meets all their requirements.
Brendan, do you have any concerns with it? I don't believe I do either.
Mr. Brahms, do you have any questions, concerns with the Bush Catter Acres?
Not in the concept itself, but what exactly are you asking the county to approve? Is it right of way?
Yes, approve the dedication of the right of way. The way I understand it, if any part of the city's jurisdictional zoning touches a parcel, they have jurisdiction on the entire parcel.
Correct.
So even though this is split zone, you could say, it's just the dedication of right of way.
Correct.
Okay.
Elmer, this is similar to what we've done in the past on other project, on other subdivisions. It's in the 2 mile jurisdiction, they've approved it, but we still have to accept the right of way.
Right. That's what I think we were talking about.
We'll take the motion.
Okay.
One way or the other.
Elmer, you have any more questions?
No.
Okay. I would move we accept the right of way from Bush Catter Acres as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? I abstain. So the motion carries.
Sign for it.
You wanna do that?
Yeah, that'll save you some time,
Okay, yeah, there's
because they won't have time to do it.
copies of the city.
Yeah.
And then what about getting Elmer to sign?
I'll get it,
You want me to sign these?
I'll get it to Elmer.
Yeah.
And then we'll get it back
Black
to
and
you.
blue now?
No.
Yeah, then I'll
Thank you,
get
guys.
it signed for you, I'll get it back to you.
Yep. So it's in my best interest to pass.
We don't have to follow conflict of interest, then, do we?
Okay, I got that one, so you want to go ahead and sign off?
It's up to you.
Yeah, might as well. They're here.
And Sandy, do you want to test these? I guess we need to wait till Elmer signs them. But you'll have to sign.
Robert, will you be coming in later like you do?
Yes, that's what I was gonna ask. I assume there's some documents there I need to sign, so I'll come in later.
Site's probably overloaded now, they just changed it. What? Yeah, covered up. Between.
Cambridge?
So I guess it, south is 400 and
Yeah.
north is 300, between 300 and 400.
Yeah, isn't it somewhere up around 330?
Yeah, just north of 330.
What's that little subdivision called there?
There's a call, we guys
The
still off.
Rustic, not Rustic, Countrywood Estates.
Countrywood's on,
No?
just north of the fairgrounds.
Oh, that's right, that's.
Oh, that's right.
You live in Countrywood, right?
Country View Estates.
That sounds familiar.
It's over there.
If you go up Kellersville, it's,
It's Country View. Something like that. If not,
I drive right by it every day, look at it. I don't remember.
There's like 40 of these.
10, literally, so, yeah.
Pretty small.
That many of them.
All right, well, as you continue to sign those, well, let's move on to something else real quick here. The decorum rules, we have 3 versions of the meeting decorum rules. I'd like to get this wrapped up if we could. I had some suggestions, Mr. Brahmas had some suggestions, I think we've all reviewed them. We have 3 options before us. I've discussed the issue with the county council president. I think the goal was to have decorum rules that matched as closely as possible between the commissioners and the county council. My suggestion today for our board would be to select one of the 3 options that we are most comfortable with. Allow the county council to review them and, if they're on board, if they have any changes, then we can discuss those. Barring any changes, though, we can, each board can make us approve the rules as they see fit. So, of course, I think the suggestion, I think at this point, I would say if we went ahead with Commissioner Brahmas's edit, I think that would be the option I would support at this point.
And that was option 3?
In the way I had, yes.
Okay, yes, I can go along with option 3.
Okay, so Commissioner Brahmas, it's your idea, so I'm sure you support it, and we're behind it, so this board is supportive of that one, and we will ask that, council president shares that with his board and, lets us, he can communicate with me if there's any changes that he thinks need to be made on that. If both boards agree, then maybe we can pass that at a future meeting. And, yes, please.
Could the attorney then, rewrite that for the, to fit the council?
I will.
And then get it, if you could maybe email it to me, then I can get it out to everybody, or you can email it. I just want to ask them for their comments.
That's fine, I'll send
We
it
won't
off.
meet till the 22nd of February, so we can get this, so
So,
maybe approve it then.
okay, so what I'll do is I'll make those same amendment to the council. I'll send that to you, Mr. Kleenster. I would envision that this board could address theirs at their meeting on the 15th, and you can address yours then on the 22nd. If there are changes, let me know.
If I have comments, I can get them back to you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I only caught part of that, so Mr. Chair, are you saying of the 15th of February or March?
I said of February, you can do it whenever.
Okay, so let's do that, that way we'll get it moving, you can give me feedback in the next couple weeks, and we can approve or not approve, or whatever action we need to take at the next meeting. So Sandy, in
And
short,
if there's any changes, minor changes in the wording, feel free to do that. For example, if we're gonna use the same one for both boards, you know, I put in there the chair of the board of commissioners, well, it's gonna be for the council as well. Either we'll have two policies, or we need to change that wording a little bit.
I'm happy
So
to,
if there's any, you know, slight changes, the concept is what I would have.
and I'm fine, I know you guys, the boards wanted to have kind of similar documents. I'm happy to do a joint one that satisfies all of you if you're all on the same page.
I think it's probably better long-term to each have an individual one, that's fine. The reason for that being, the next iteration of either board could make a change, then independent of the other.
Okay.
So you had 3 different options, but you chose one, or?
We, as far as for that goes, we're not making any official action, we can just say we've discussed,
Just discussing
meeting
it.
decorum, policies. Okay, still have a couple minutes until our next action here. So I believe I sent this information to both of you, but, Junie Hemsel's request to put a plaque on the cabinets. Have you both had a chance to look at that?
I did. I looked at the email. I was not able to look at the picture. It looked like it was, you know, yeah, I couldn't load the picture. So I don't know what that's all about. But, you know, I'm okay with putting some kind of a recognition plaque. We're not talking about a lot of money, to recognize whatever contributions people made.
So here's what I'm understanding. What I sent to you was it's a piece of paper, it looks like a scroll, it's just something that was the front of a 80th anniversary dinner held April 21st of 1982. Margaret Wilson's paper for the 50th anniversary of the Literary Club of 1956. Long story short, it says the records show that on February 5th of 1917, a group of women from the 20th Century Literary Club petitioned the Board of County Commissioners to purchase a cabinet in which to store historical articles and relics. The petition was granted, and the cabinets were placed in the corridor of the Du Bois County Courthouse. So I'm assuming it's those very large ones. I think, to me, whenever all the years that I've looked at it, they don't look that old to me, but
For some reason, I'm thinking one of them was older than the other one. They made identical, so they match when they did them, but I can't swear to that.
so the language of how it's written here, it says to purchase a cabinet, and then in the next sentence, it says the cabinets were placed in the corridor. So, for people that aren't aware, there's 2 huge cabinets. I would guess they're 15 feet wide by 9 feet tall, and they're full of historical relics from Du Bois County. And Mr. Hemsel's request was we should put a brass placard of some sort on there stating that, you know, on February 5th, 1917, this group of women from a literary club raised the funds and made it. One of those women being Margaret A. Wilson, who's
She from the school?
yeah, she's one of the well-known people of the community, historic member of the community. So, what do you think?
What year was that, Chad?
1917 is when it says that the cabinets were purchased.
Okay, is that George Wilson's wife?
I believe so.
The wife or sister?
Sister?
Was it
Okay.
sister? I thought he was his wife. So I don't know for sure. So anyway, we're not opposed to it, so I should continue speaking with him. I mean, if I don't think it hurts to put a plaque there saying, these cabinets donated by these people at this time, and I think it's a neat little piece of history not to lose. Okay, I'll reach back out to him and we'll see if we can figure something out. So if we want, I mean, do you want the county to pay for that out of the commissioner's fund? I mean, I'm thinking it'd be under $100 to get a little recognition plaque made.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Commissioner Brahms, have any problem with that?
No, I do not. You know, the problem, if there is a problem, would be to make sure we get it accurate.
Okay, I'll tell him that we are not opposed. We may even pay a small amount to have it done. And maybe we can officially ask him just to come in and make a little presentation either on the phone of what it'll say and what it'll be, so we know what we're getting into. Okay, next up, we'll have the COVID-19 and vacation times. Sean Werner and Tammy Humbert are here. Please.
We were both granted extensions on our vacation to have them used by the end of January, and neither one of us were able to get that accomplished. And with the COVID vaccine clinics coming up, we just don't know when we would ever get to use that, let alone what we've gained in 2021.
Can you speak just a little bit louder? Just, I think sometimes it's hard for you to hear.
Elmer, did you hear what I said there?
Yeah, it's borderline, but yes, I can do it.
Yeah, so we're just here to talk to you about the next steps and what we need to do for our vacation time for 2020.
Would either of you have opposition to just being paid for your unused time as we move forward?
That would have been our suggestion.
That would be my suggestion. Commissioner Hofstadter,
I don't have a problem with that.
Commissioner Brahmas?
Would you repeat that, Jeff?
My-
Would it be paid?
My suggestion would be to pay them for their unused time, that they couldn't get done, so that we can just put it to rest. That way the auditor's office doesn't have to continue carrying it forward, and we have a clean slate for the remainder of this year.
I'll just have to do an additional.
I'm certainly in favor of that if it works okay through the auditor's office and we're not creating any issues by doing that.
We'll have to get an additional appropriation, because your line items don't have enough money in them.
Yeah, I mean, under mine, I have a comp line. I don't know that you have that in yours.
My only question would be, Marty, if you don't mind weighing in, does this create any, like, future, issues?
No, given the situation, it clearly has to go through the commissioners for approval, and given this situation, that would actually be my recommendation as well, because the outlook is just, we're probably months and months out of continuing with the
Right.
clinics and stuff, and I think realistically, that's to be the best option.
Okay.
So how much time, we're gonna have to work on how much time and how much money, and then I have to go to council.
So mine is 11 hours. Mine's not a large amount.
I think mine's 35.
So with Tammy on her part, do you think she can use her comp hours to make that payment? I mean, it's a similar line item.
Possibly, yes.
I mean, it's there, it's already there and budgeted in my budget, so.
Okay, so for the purposes of this board, I move that we approve the payout of the unused paid time off earned by the EMA and Health Department directors, and pending council approval if needed.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 So that's approved. Thank you very much for what you're
Thank
doing.
you, guys.
It is, how'd it go this weekend?
It went well again. I think we had right around 400 on the final count yet, but we did it in a half day, so got in and out of there a little bit quicker. So that's another one behind us, but what we're running into a problem now is the state is upping our allocations starting today. at the health department. So, I mean, we're running into some issues. I think I shared an email with you guys, just kind of let you guys know what we're dealing with. So we're probably gonna be doing, if the scheduler works and it's beyond our control, 900 a week. So we're running into parking issues, social distancing issues within the health department, staffing issues. We're bringing 4 or 5 additional staff members in every day. So I just wanted to make you guys aware that we're doing everything we can to keep this vaccine moving as quickly as possible. So we did find some space in WIC that they would allow us to use while they're out. We removed some walls and tried to get that set up. So when we do have an influx of people, they just, at 9 o'clock this morning, they just opened it up to 65 plus. So I'm sure I tried to get on the scheduling program and it's bogged down again because everybody's on there trying to make that appointment. So I'm afraid that in the next few days, it's going to be mass chaos at the health department. So I don't know what we want to do. I sent an email about the parking. There's just no possible way we can park all those people in the front. So is it okay if we use the back for employee parking and bring them in through probably the WIC entrance for while we have that space available?
My position is that it's all county parking lot and you use what you need to use for county business.
Okay.
And just for the board's information, I went out to the health department and did a walkthrough with them, and the employees are running around like bees in a hive. It's, people are really busting their tail, and I felt good that we had people on it, but then I felt bad for them. You could tell there's a little bit of anxiety in the air. And I told Mr. Warner that if there was things we could do, you know, I wanted, you know, he brings us something, he said, I need X, Y, and Z. I wanted to support those things. The problem is, one of the things he needs his building to have a bigger entryway. He needs more space. You know, there's some things that just, you can't snap your fingers and get done. So there are space issues, and I think that's the main thing that I look or
Do we need to look at renting another facility or?
Well, I mean, that's not really feasible for us either because we still have to keep all of our other daily operations going. If I send my staff somewhere else, then I can't do anything else in the health department. So another facility is not really an option. It's just going to have to make the one we have work. And, you know, we're supposed to start second doses February 8th. We're planning on using the drive-through, but I looked at the forecast, 10 degrees in the morning. It just so happens that when we need to start going outside, the weather's going to probably kill us. But we're planning on setting up a tent and try to get some space heaters in there, at least make it so it's manageable for my staff to be outside. I mean, I can't.
The only thought I had with that is if we could put tarping over the side and put those big blow heaters in there. I mean, the county could pay for those kind of things to keep it at 40 degrees instead of at 10.
Yeah, it may
Right.
come to that.
And I have a couple of heaters in our trailer at Honeyburn that we can pull out and bring.
We purchased some smaller space heaters from
These are big blow heaters.
Rural King.
I don't want to speak for the county council, but in the past, when there's been emergency situations, if you come up with an idea and you're like, we need this done, I would suggest that you at least reach out to Mr. Fleesner, if you find that that's necessary. And I'm sure you know that already, but I just know that you have my support for that.
Let's see what's going to happen. But it is so hard for us to tell because the state controls our scheduler. So I submitted the plan to do 900 a week. But I don't, the problem comes when we're doing first and second doses. Right now, the first week in February, we'll only have 30 doses a day for second doses. So all the rest of those 870 are opened up as first shots. Then we're going to be in major trouble because those are all going to be coming into my building. That's when I have major space issues. But I don't know if they told me that shouldn't happen, but they've told me a lot of things that have happened that they said it wouldn't. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. And
everything is subject to change.
Exactly. So we're gonna try to continue if my staff can manage it and we can keep up with it. Try to do more of them at Jasper Middle School, just because it's a good way to get a very large number of people through in a short amount of time. So we still plan on doing those. But those probably will be scheduled, you know, on a as-needed basis when the vaccine becomes available and my staff can find enough workers to work the site.
Thank you.
All I got, unless you got questions.
Thanks. Just hang in there. You guys doing a good job out there.
Sean?
Yeah.
Yes, I had a question. Did I hear you say something about, well, let me put it this way, are the state guidelines still 70 and over?
This morning at 9 o'clock, the state just opened it up to 65 plus. So anybody 65 and older is now eligible. And I also have you know, an email about how, you know, we handle. So at the end of each day, we may have a dose or two or maximum of 9 that we have to get into people's arms because we don't want it to go to waste. So, you know, that would be then when we would start calling individuals, obviously from the 65 plus age group. If that doesn't, if we can't find somebody immediately to get in that group, then we have permission from the state to drop it down to 65 plus, but, I'm sorry, 60 plus. So that is something we have to deal with on a daily basis. That takes a lot of our time too, to try to find somebody to get those shots into. I've got an email from the states giving us permission and kind of how to go along about doing that. I'm probably going to email it to Marky and he can send it out to department heads so at least everybody understands how that process works.
Okay.
But we don't necessarily want to go public with the call list because we can't field the calls we have right now. So if I say we're taking a waiting list, our phones are gonna ring off the hook and we won't be able to get what we need to get done in a day. So that's kind of where we're at on that.
Yeah. Well, I'll echo what Chad said. I want to support you in whatever you're doing and whatever you need, and look forward to the time when I can get out there maybe and help a little bit, maybe do a little volunteering.
Yeah, we'll put you out in the cold parking lot.
Directing traffic. Did you catch that, Elmer? He said he's got a cold parking lot for you.
Because that is going to be another problem of ours, trying to direct people that are there for second doses to go through the drive-through before they get out of their vehicle. So, I mean, it's probably going to take somebody in the front parking lot, or you're here for your first or second dose and then directing them to the drive-through. So we're definitely going to need some tougher people to stand out there outside for a couple hours at a time and do that, because it's just not possible. I mean, I can put as many signs up as I want, people don't read them, so.
Well, it won't be till March 1st, but I'll be glad to help.
Yeah, you want the thaw to happen by then.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
So I wanted to mention, I had a meeting, I think I may have, I don't know if I mentioned this with you last time, that I met with a guy, a facility manager guy, who has an app and he.
I saw your email and stuff.
Okay, so I'll just briefly talk about it, that Matt Stetchley from Core Facilities, they have a service that they provide. He gave us, did I send the agreement? He sent a sample contract of what they do. The sheriff has looked at it for his. They have options of doing the new jail. They have options of doing the new sheriff's office, jail, courthouse, annex facility. They just have a number of different plans. I don't think the sheriff is interested in moving forward with one of these at this point. And I need to catch back up with Scott Hope what his thoughts were. What they kind of do in summary, the short version is they come and they look at everything, they check out what your assets are, and they put together a book for you. So that's one part. And then the second part is they have an application that, in this case, let's say Scott could walk around once a month or every so many months and say, I reviewed the roof, the membrane seems in good shape, or I reviewed the 100 different things, and it just gives them a way to check everything every month, type in what they find, and help keep us on a maintenance schedule, and to keep up on any problems as they arise. So that's pretty much what that is, and then that application can print us a report, and we could review it and say, looks like we're finding windows that are problems, or we're having, it could be a number of things. So that's the short version of what it is. In the scheme of things, it seems like a fine thing, but I don't know if it's worth the cost, and we'll have to make that determination. So please review it, and maybe it'll be brought up again in the future. Do either of you have any questions on that at this time?
Not at this time.
Commissioner
The
Brown?
only question I have, Chad, was, initially when this was first introduced, I thought there was some statement made that we're going to have to do this for the new facility, or am I wrong on that?
There is a jail, I forget what they call it. There's a jail guide or code, let's see what it's called. It's a regulatory standard that the sheriff shall have a written plan for preventative maintenance, and the plan shall be reviewed annually and updated as needed. So that's from, when the jail inspector comes down every year, this is one of the things that they are supposed to be looking for. So for the jail purposes, they are supposed to have something like this. The sheriff is aware of that, and he thinks because he has a full-time maintenance person, that they will have, they are keeping up with these issues, and that I believe he will do whatever is necessary to make sure he has such a plan in place to be compliant with that. So you don't have to have this big book that Core provided, but you're supposed to have something in mind. And I think he's taking care of that. I don't think there's any similar requirements for the county for the other buildings.
Okay, I understand.
Okay. I think one thing that he did say is he reached out to some local sheriff's departments, and they don't have, some of the other sheriff's departments don't have full-time maintenance people or any kind of maintenance people, and those are the ones that it's more, maybe more useful to have such a detailed plan like that. And use that app. So I'm gonna review it a little further. If either of you have any questions, we can move forward with that in the future if we deem it valuable. It's 10 o'clock. We have a question on exempt status workers. Marky, you going to lead that discussion, please?
Yeah. So I got you guys a couple of copies here. I emailed you one as well, Elmer. It's a copy of a policy from Pike County, something that they do. So I'm gonna give you kind of like a watered down, short version, exempt versus non-exempt. There are a few tests that can be done, including a salary or duties test, and a few others to determine whether somebody's exempt or non-exempt. Basically, non-exempt are paid overtime at 1.5 times the rate for anything over 40 hours, while exempt workers can work as many hours over 40 and they're given no additional pay benefit whatsoever. So that's kind of the watered down, quick version of both differences. So the main reason behind the discussion is today, it's been brought up a couple times about some directors feel it's unfair that they're exempt while others are labeled as non-exempt and are able to earn comp time. And then most recently with this pandemic, it's took a roll on many different departments, obviously working excessive hours to meet demands within their departments. So currently, I think the county's got right around 10 exempt employees, I believe. I don't have a concrete number, but we've been doing some figuring on thinking somewhere around 10. I was provided this policy here. Neighboring Pike County has the following policy enacted. It's a very generous policy. Basically, any hours over 40 hours, they're paid at time and a half. And for holidays, they're paid at 2 times the rate. And it also gets a $45 a day meal allowance. So the commissioners approved this back in 2013 and made it effective July 1st of 2012. It applies to salaried exempt positions working during emergency declarations, similar to what we got going on today. So It's not for just, if you work over 40 hours your regular job, you get paid this. It's obviously, it's qualified under some sort of emergency situation. Basically, since there's no federal or state law that enforces exempt status, we could essentially create something, if we wanted to benefit us or however we want it here in Du Bois County, because being exempt, there is no, you don't have to do anything at all. So anything would be okay because we'd be going above and beyond what is required. So I don't know if we would be ready to vote on this per se, as much as just having a dialogue. I know there's a few department heads here, and I think there was a couple more was going to show up that was called me when they seen this was on the agenda, wanted to weigh in on it. I guess some stuff that's happened in the past. So that's just really where we're at on it. Just more or less just proposing it to you guys to see if it would be something that we would want to consider in the future for the exempt status employees here in the county for anytime there's basically a federal or state emergency that would require, beyond the means hours, above and beyond what I think is technically what a person would normally work, so to speak. So.
I guess my first thought is, why not just, if this is the case, then we're making them non-exempt employees, so why don't we just turn them from salary to hourly? I mean, that could be, that could be.
Correct, and it could, essentially we could do that. There's nothing that says we can't. You can't change it to not benefit the employees, the law, but you can go above and beyond the means to benefit the employees. But, at any consideration like that, it's obviously going to affect the council side with money as well. If we get people start earning a lot of comp time. So there's a lot of moving pieces in the considerations. I think it's good to bring it up, especially considering, I think Health E&A, you guys are currently working probably close to 70, 75 hours, 80,
Pay period or a week?
a week.
Oh,
Yeah. So, when you start driving those numbers down, and you guys are probably working close to minimum wage, I would expect, if you start figuring in those numbers, if you was to crunch the numbers, but.
So what's so it says we have 10 exempt employees. Is there a comparable non-exempt employee that's leading departments that you could share with me? Who would one of those be?
Non-exempt, that would be like Judy Brown, Bob Gress. I believe them are both non-exempt. Scott Hove. You got Carla.
Those aren't salary positions? Carla's not salary?
I think they're considered salary, but they're non-exempt. Yeah.
There's criteria to being an exempt
Yeah.
employee.
Yeah.
And you have to meet those criteria.
And even Pike County, I wouldn't follow this particular proposal they've got because a lot of people, when they consider stuff like this, they want to compare salary and hourly. That's just verbiage. There's no such thing as hourly and salary. It's what you're looking at is exempt or non-exempt. That's the key word. And I mean, even this declaration of Pike County, they've got salary positions, which technically I think the wording probably should have been exempt there. I think that's where they were going with it, but. And I know it's different. You also got department heads working anywhere from 35 hours a week to 45 hours a week, depending on the department. So that was another thing that was brought up to me as to why that was, and I didn't have an answer for that. I mean, I don't know why there's the weekly required hours are different. It was long before my time, but just a couple things that was brought up. And like I said, the most recently, obviously it's this pandemic that's calling certain employees to work a buku amount of hours, and to kind of bring it up again. So that's why I wanted to at least bring it up to be considered and threw out on the table, so to speak.
I don't know, I guess I need to learn more about it. I don't know what I'm saying on it. What do you think?
I mean, we could circle back to it next meeting, give us a little bit of time to look into it. Certainly wanna, do right by our employees, but, we gotta do right by our taxpayers too, so, that's what I'm gonna look at just a little bit more.
Commissioner Robinson?
Yeah, I have a lot of questions on it, or a lot of things that I'm not sure how they would work. I think you used the term slippery slope at one point. First of all, I noticed in the Pike County, policy, they use the term emergency period. Who would determine emergency period? Would it be our emergency declaration? And during that time, what about exempt employees that are putting in extra time that has no relation to the emergency? For example, let's just use Sean for example here. Sean is working, I don't know how many hours, and it's all due to this emergency, or primarily due to this emergency. But there may be other exempt employees who are putting in extra hours that have nothing to do with the emergency. And do we want to adjust theirs as well, or would they be able to qualify? And then secondly, who determines how many hours they put in? For example, with a non-exempt, or I'm getting backwards here, with a salary employee, the department supervisor okays those extra hours, or at least I assume that's in general the way it works. But who would okay the extra hours for a non-salaried employee? Would that have to come before the commissioners each time, or do they do that themselves? So one of the thoughts that I had that might be a way to look at it is to grant pay for extra hours over a certain point. For example, if somebody is a 35-hour employee, maybe you can say the first 10 hours that you put in over that 35 are not going to be paid, but if it has to go beyond 10 hours, then we'll start paying for it. I don't know whether that's a solution or not, but, because in the emergency situation, somebody like Sean or maybe Tammy, are putting in big numbers of hours, and I agree that they deserve some kind of compensation for that.
Yeah,
Anyway, those are a couple of thoughts.
Yeah, in my past, we've done something like that similar to a place that I used to work at. We ended up having, when they set up the exempt versus non-exempt and the salaries and all that, people were working more 40, 45 hours, and then the trends changed in the business, and people were working 65 to 70 hours a week, so they did change their policy for exempt status. Similar to what you're talking about, they set a policy and up to so many hours. After that hour limit, then they were paid at a straight rate basis for up to a certain cap amount per week. So I am familiar with doing something like that, and I think that does bring up your another point of discussion. Like Chad said, we're talking around 10 employees. So do we want to look at it based off of pandemic or emergency? And like you said, who would declare that? Or would we just want to change it across the board? That's given the fact that we're only talking a handful of employees.
On one hand, I think that the reason we have, let's just say, the salary is you get paid this much and you do what it takes to get the job done, right? And I don't need to just pick on you.
Yeah.
So that's easy to say on one side until you're putting a ton
Correct.
over and above.
Correct.
But like I did say in one of the emails that it's a slippery slope, because if we start paying for this, then somebody else, then we get another department and saying, well, I had this employee, there's an emergency for my department, and then, well, you gave it to them, and you gave it to these people. So I've always believed that a salary pays for you to do the job, and you do whatever the job takes. But on the other hand, I don't know, it's just, it's a
I
tough
think
deal.
if it wasn't for COVID, I don't know that I'd be interested in this. But you don't expect an emergency declaration to go on for over a year.
Yeah.
You know, so, Tammy, I'll pick on you again. If a tornado comes through and we have a 2, 3, 4 week spell where she's working buku hours, then it goes away. You know, and she gets back to her normal schedule. Well, they've never had this opportunity to get back to this normal schedule since COVID started. So it's a completely different animal. And I look at 5 counties and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wonder how much this costs their county.
Their policy here is it's a very generous policy, that's
You know,
for
and
sure.
the meal
but-
plan too, it's like, they're gonna pay for meals. I get it, if, you know, if Tammy's out on the ground and can't get somewhere, you know, can't go home, can't bring, you know, whatever, that makes a little more sense, but we're in a completely different time right now. So, definitely need to put some more work into this and look at kind of the ramifications and stuff.
I guess I would ask too, if there's a specific ask from the employees, it's like, here's what we think we want, here's what we think we've earned, or here's what we think we deserve. I think that would make it easier too, because now it's just wide open.
Right.
We can do everything from nothing to Lyon County to,
Correct.
well, if you work 44 hours, then you get this. And so, you know, that's the same thing we did earlier with that count or the city thing. I don't want to just say, we'll leave the bathrooms open, whatever. Tell me specifically what you want, and we can tell you if we can grant that or if we can't.
So, we recognize how much work you guys are putting in. It's just we gotta figure it out first.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing too. Like we've been doing some talking back and forth too. It's you know, if you got to go to some meetings, you stay late or something like that, you don't think nothing of it. But when it's happening every week and without an end in sight, I think that's the, you know, like you guys already got two clinics already planning February already. So, you know, they already know that, you know, backs against the wall, and it's not just coordinating these clinics are rough because I'm involved in that. I mean, we're up to Thursday and Friday afternoon at 1 o'clock, we were still hiring people. So for Saturday's clinic, so it really doesn't end, you know. So, but yeah, we'll circle back around. We'll throw a couple of proposals together and
So you don't need to answer these now, but maybe a question that would help me, if your normal hours were 8 to 4, and if you can tell me, well, now instead of doing 8 to 4, we're doing 8 to 4 plus. Last week I did 5 to 7, 3 days, and I did 7 hours on Saturday and 2 hours. You know, if you because you two are probably the most impacted. If you've got time to put that in a.
Well, we keep a time sheet, we record our
Yeah,
hours.
I put all my hours down.
We keep a time record of
So
all
I
the
guess
hours.
Sandy, I guess you could send it to me, or you could send it to me.
I mean, that's.
I don't keep the
time sheets.
That's just a normal.
Oh,
thing.
you keep the time
We
sheet.
keep our time sheet for our hours worked.
There's many days I've worked 8 hours past the 7 I get paid.
That you did what?
I've worked 8 additional hours on top of the 7 that I get paid for. I mean, the week before the clinic, the first clinic, I was nothing but 15 hours in a day just to get everything done. And that doesn't happen every day, but at minimum 9, 10, 12 hours a day right now. And I don't see an end in sight, so. And that's like Martin said, I don't have a problem staying for council meeting, commissioner meeting, if I have to stay late. And I knew that going into this, but I mean, all these Saturday clinics, I mean, I work 5:30 till 7 o'clock at night on the first one, and you know, I'm there just because I want to be, not because I'm getting compensated for it.
Right. And the other thing we don't want to do, or I don't want to do, I'll speak for myself only, is, in this case, John Warner said, you know what? It's probably even worth it. See you later. I mean, there's something to be said for wanting to make sure you're taking care of someone well enough that they want to stay at the job. And the thing that keeps popping in my head is something that we've done in my other business is you give people a one-time payout of X amount of dollars. Thank you, we know you're working extra. That, if that thing is doable or possible, that is something that it doesn't get you locked into anything long-term. It gets you on any kind of slope. We say, these are people that are working due to this emergency. Thank you. Hopefully this helps compensate for some of the time away from your family and everything else that you're going through. So that, if anything, as of right now, without learning any more, that's where I'm leaning towards something along that line. If the council would even be in favor of anything like that, I don't know. But at least as of right now, that's something I can support.
Yeah, I mean, we both have our time sheets that we keep, every day, every week. I mean, I put the hours down, but obviously we don't, we just keep it because that's what we work, we don't get compensated for it.
Right. Anything else, Commissioner Hostetler?
I have nothing to add.
Commissioner Ramos?
No, I would say continue to keep track of those hours and the type of, or the reason why you're putting in those hours, and I agree that something needs to be done.
So, yeah, we'll keep the conversation going. Thanks for your work, and we'll come up with something. Thank you. All right. I believe this, according to my agenda, that's the final scheduled agenda item. And so we can go into some miscellaneous items. Mr. Schneider, do you have anything you said?
I actually do, yeah. In the interest of spending more county money, I was hoping I could join this Municipal Lawyers Association.
What was the cost again?
$85.
And is there money, do you know where that money would come from?
It's similar to when I do my continuing education, it comes from your line items.
I think you're right. We have extra money in our dues item for the organizations that we're involved in. I would support Mr. Schneider joining this organization.
I would as well.
Commissioner Ramos, any comments?
Absolutely, we need to keep him educated.
Honestly, I was a little
I'm
surprised.
glad he said keep him educated, as opposed to get him educated.
What is the name of the organization again? Municipal,
Indiana Municipal Lawyers Association,
and the expense?
$85 per
I
year.
move that we approve Mr. Schneider joining the MLA for $85. I guess that's per annum, so we'll approve it this time.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries.
Thank you.
Any other items?
I heard back from my last department heads on Friday afternoon on the code book, so hopefully we're in our last steps of that with American. That is all I have.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that last comment.
He said he spoke to some department heads about the code book, the ordinances, and he's wrapping that up, I think.
Okay.
Does that sound accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
I should have said this when Marky was still in the area, in the room, but I'll just bring it up. So you saw the email that he spoke with some of our people on our insurance. And do we need to do anything further with this? Because they gave us a yearly presentation in, I don't know, November, I believe. And it seemed like it was a pretty rosy presentation. And now the longer we go and the more we dive into it, it doesn't seem like it was nearly as good as they were claiming. What do you have any thoughts on that? What our next steps are, or just let Marky keep talking with them at this point?
Well, Marky and I both met with them, and
Okay.
they're gonna start giving me a pending claim, so we can kind of see how much I need to send up, because I send up money to fund the claims and the costs, and then they need more right away. I needed 3 times in January already. So it's just, we're trying to figure out why and what, and you look at the claims,
This is different than when we had the trust in the past, because we would fund the trust and it would be.
same
funded.
difference. We're doing it the same way, we're funding them and they're using money a lot faster than it's the same concept.
Okay. So is there any actions you think the board needs to take at this point, or you're working with them, working through the issues with them?
We're working through it, and we're hoping that some of our claims come down, but right now, it's just, I may end up having to need more money at the end of the year. Unless claims do come down.
And I think the interesting thing about it too was that it wasn't, 3 big surgeries.
No, it was
It
a
was,
whole bunch of little things that added up to a lot of money.
okay, well, I say we just, keep an eye on it.
Monitor it.
I think one of the things that we could, impress upon them as well, as I understood it, maybe the presentation, the annual presentation, wasn't accurate. What they painted a more rosy picture than what is actually there, and, we can't accept that.
Right, it needs to be accurate.
So was it inaccurate, or was it things that came in late, like towards the end of the year?
I think there were both.
I think it's a mixture of both. But they were on our plan year, we were on a calendar year, but still with that, there still was issues.
So the issue that I brought up and that concerns me more than anything is they were coming in saying that our per employee per month payment was down, let's say 15%, I don't remember the number. It was down significantly, a couple $1,000. And Sandy was reporting, we're sending them more money than we did.
I remember talking
at
about
least,
that during the presentation.
at least as much as we did the year before, maybe more. And I'm like, so my question was, how can this be, these two things cannot coexist? We can't be spending less per employee, but spending the same amount or more.
And January was just as, it's just as expensive. I spent more money, so, than what I originally planned. You kind of budget what you think you're gonna send every month, and then you gotta send more, something's not right.
Right.
Okay. So there's been a situation with, something called, I'll try to keep this as brief, not to get into the weeds. It's called a system key, and you need a system key to program radios for the county, or for radios in general. And historically, the 911 director has held the only key in DuBois County. And then when, in our case, Charlie McIntyre needs to program radios, he has a key to do it. Otherwise, if another entity wanted to have the radios programmed, they had to have a vendor with a key of some sort. There's been another person in the community have a key. It's being held by the EMA right now. And at some point, I've talked to the IPSC is what they're called, Indiana Public Safety Committee, I believe is their term. And they said that they would like the commissioners to select a single point of contact. And that's something that they will be doing this year. So I guess at some point, we will have to decide who that is. I think at one point, I thought, well, maybe the president of the board of commissioners could do it. Then I thought that maybe it would best be held by the director of 911, whoever that may be. So anyway, just something I wanted to throw out there, something we put in a lot of work. Craig Grolick and I put in a lot of work on that the last 2 weeks. It was kind of a to-do. So just something we're working on in communication with the state on that. Seems like everything is fine now and everybody's above board and doing things that are legal, so there's no concerns. Any questions on that?
Is that when you talk about a key, you're talking about a physical key or a passcode or?
It's actually a USB card, probably one of those that's I'm assuming, I don't know how big it is, but it's a USB card that has information on it. And I guess when you do programming, you have to get data from that. So it's an electronic or technological key, not a traditional key.
Okay.
So I think everything's going fine right now. Everybody's safe. We just want to keep up on that. We continue to have meetings on the Justice Project. At this point, I think the next steps are as follows, and Council President Fleesner is here, so he's been involved every step of the way, so if I misspeak, maybe he can correct me. But I think what we're looking to do is, over the next couple weeks. They're finalizing design. They are, getting that design, construction documents, I think would be the right term. Those should be available and finished on the 15th, at which point we will open those to potential bidders, contractors that would take that work. They will have 30 days to complete their bid, and then somewhere in the middle of March, we would open those bids for review. Within 60 days, we would take one of those bids and select it for the project or reject them all. I suppose would be another option if we didn't like any of them. Does that sound accurate, Mr. Gleason?
That's correct.
So that's kind of the steps we're on right now, and that is just for the jail pod, community corrections, sheriff's department, part of the project. We had a meeting last Thursday or Friday, I don't know what day it was, where we did have all of the department heads that would be affected by this. They were in this room. We did a presentation so that we could do some collaboration and see if what happened in one office, how it would affect other people, where we could share assets such as conference rooms and kind of look at the scope of the project a little more. So, and what we've said the whole time, the longer you wait, it seems like the price of everything goes up. So I think the determination may be that we will bid this first project, open it, see where we're at, and then we can make a determination on the second project, and it would likely be a separate bond issue. I think that's how I see it at this point. So I'll answer any questions on that if you have them.
Just to clarify, Ted, when you talk about the first project, again, you're talking about the jail pod, the jail, community corrections. The second project is the Justice Center.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So it's, as these things become timing issues and financial issues, I don't know, I think the determination has been that it makes more sense to maybe look at our primary project first to see where we are financially. So I don't think it's wise, and I don't think the council would be, from my interaction with them, would want to spend, we don't want to spend every possible penny that we could possibly get. That doesn't leave money for rehabilitative services and some of the other things, staffing that we may have a need for. So we want to be cautious as we proceed because the dollars are limited, as they always are.
Sure.
All right. There was a little bit of talk again about a public defender's office at that meeting. That's something that continues to be discussed. At least for the moment, I believe that's all I have. Commissioner Hostetter?
I don't have anything additional to it.
Commissioner Brown?
No, I don't. The only thing that I was going to mention was that the bicycle and pedestrian path study is ongoing, and we're trying to set up some meetings now. Renee at the city office, the attorney at the city office is trying to set up some meetings with everybody now. So there may be some publicity on that soon as far as the meetings are concerned.
Okay. Steve, I'm going through my notes here, and one thing I've got written down, and I don't know how long I've had this in my notes, but I leave them on there until they get resolved. This one says, ask Steve to report on AVL in February of 2021. So is that's something we probably did last February?
Yeah.
And I guess if you want to tell us how, maybe next meeting, tell us how that's been working out. So that's track vehicle, where they've been, where they've stopped, their speeds. What else does it do? For those,
Does diagnostic review, like if we have something broken down and we don't quite know what it is, a lot of times Max can get on the computer and pull it up, and it gives him an idea what he's getting out there to look at, so make sure he's got the right equipment with him if he has to go out, so.
Okay, yeah, so if you don't mind, maybe, at our next meeting, if you can tell us, hey, it's been going great, it's not been working, we've had great success or problems. Just something we can keep up on, let us know how it works. And Sandy, did you have anything else?
You sent that 911 policy that you said you guys don't look at that.
No, I'm not gonna bring that up, I don't think, yeah. Okay, any, comments from the public? Yes, sir, go ahead.
I'd like to just, it's, I think overall, the maintenance of the building, you decided not to do the maintenance programming of the, not maintenance, but to oversee our assets. And, I just wonder how we handle that now. Does each department head, let's say this highway department, do they look at their buildings and properties and see what it needs and then make a plan, or do we have a plan in effect for that?
No, to clarify, the only thing that we've not, or the sheriff has said that he's not interested in doing it for the new building when it's done, for his, but other than that, I don't think we've taken it off the table. I wanted to talk to Scott about it and see what his thoughts were and give the other commissioners a chance to review that. So it's not off the table, but currently, yes, it would be, if there's a problem in a given office, it gets brought up piecemeal. It's not a comprehensive. I mean, Scott has things such as the elevator, the heating and air conditioning, and those things on a schedule.
Right.
But I don't know about it any more comprehensive than that.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, I'm not saying to buy this company or purchase an agreement with this company. I just think we ought to have someone in charge of each property, possibly, that he reviews it at least once a year. The roof, the whole thing. And I think it's a good policy. I think to have some kind of a that review the properties. Because, I think it's gonna help the council in a long-term, long-term plan budget. If a new roof's gonna be, we're gonna need a new roof in this in 3 years or, I think it's a good policy. I'm not saying to hire an outside company at all. I'm just saying if it's the county engineer that maybe could help with that or set that up or, because that's pretty standard, when you got multiple facilities. Just a suggestion.
That's good, thank you.
Well, it's the three of us. I'm the county engineer.
Brent, would you make the argument that you're the highway engineer, not the county engineer?
More, but
We like pulling you into various.
He's the ADA officer, so he does all the buildings.
right now, I do agree that we need to have some, we really do pretty well. The only, we have Scott takes care of courthouse, health department, and then sheriff's department's got, Hudor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we got Tim.
And then you got Grandma's Bacher out of.
Yeah,
I mean,
so we've got, I do agree with a plan, needs to be some kind of plan, but
Maybe we just need to get all those guys together and put it all down on a single document.
Well, have, just like they're gonna do, these professionals are gonna do, they're gonna say, did you, check the outside, check the roof, check, if it's gonna need new flooring in 3 years, or, I think it's just a good idea. I think in a long-term plan, for budgeting, I just think that's a good idea. Personally.
At least on the major
Right,
assets.
range drive,
The air conditioner, the roof.
Right.
Yeah.
And, just so you have it somehow in writing, that, Rudolph knows it, but does anybody else know it?
Right.
When you
And that's one of the benefits of this plan is that when any of those people quit, the knowledge all goes with them. If they report it weekly or monthly, then the knowledge is held.
I think it would be good, and I'm not saying to spend, $50,000 to have somebody do it for you. I'm just saying we have it where somebody's there every day, a supervisor, that he can see we're gonna need to do this at some point.
I think that's a fine idea. So I'll follow up. Any other business? Seeing none, we adjourn.
no, I'll give you a hard time.
So they can just provide an application to review facility management and
notary thing.
I don't know what this comes
They're
from.
now, and, third reading will pass 95. Okay, so it's going through. And I guess.
We're getting rid of the word.
I gotta come
Is that a retroactive language?
Hey, Brent.
Oh, is that thing on?
Question to you. Then it's just whenever it's done, it's all done.
I gotta stop.